Now I know why I wore the bathroom.
Hello, everybody. It is a pleasure to be here. Can we thank Mary for this opportunity? She's the one who's really in charge of putting the band back together. So the videos you're going to see here, obviously with Paris, and it's going to include a short parade. Because it's hard moving 200 people in the city of Paris, and sometimes it's easier just to keep them off the buses and march them from one place to the next. And I believe that's what the little parade video is on there. And then we got the opportunity to perform in front of some really wonderful places everywhere, from the Tuileries outside the Louvre to the big art museum, I can't think of it, the Pompidou Center, and the video here, I think it's in front of the Hotel de Ville. And it is what it is, you'll see what it is. And then representing 1989 is Johnny B. Goode. Along with the USSR, probably one of the most dangerous drills I've ever marched. I joked back there in the middle of that USSR one that no band members were harmed during the filming of this. Not exactly true, but we'll go with that story. But 1980 season was a really special one because we were on the heels of that Paris trip, and we were primed, ready to go after such a wonderful opportunity to travel there with 200 friends. And so we brought that same energy to that marching season also, and Johnny B. Goode, and then we end with One Day More. Everybody has their favorites, and I know this was one of my favorites out of my time here, and it was one of the audiences. I'm not really going to say anything more about the videos. They will be exactly what you expect them to be, so I don't need to describe them. And as Doc shared with us earlier in his letter, they only show a fraction, almost even one-dimensional, of what the shows actually were. They do not show our exhaustion. They don't show us sweating or out of breath. They don't show the tears that sometimes would come. But all of that was real, and it was real for all of us that are in this room. And they don't show how many shoes remained on the field after we left because they were stuck in the mud. So there's so many little things that you'll never pick up from these videos. And basically, we're not experiencing the band, we're just reliving our memories as we watch these. And they're all wonderful. But what I'll share about my time is some of my most precious memories and experiences that I had, that we had, and that the band had. They are mine, but we all shared so many of them together. And if I don't say something that you know, it'll be reminiscent of something that you did get to experience. So my first few years, and I started in 1987 and 88 and 89, I came to IUP to be in the band after hearing them at a football game. I looked around at a lot of schools, but this was really on my short list because of what I had seen at a Chambersburg, or what's the college here? Shippensburg football game. A friend of mine said, "Hey, IUP's playing this weekend. We're not doing anything. You want to go?" And I was like, "What's IUP?" He's like, "Oh, you'll love this." And I absolutely did. The year was 1986 when I saw them at Shippensburg. And one of my most precious first experiences, my parents left me after auditions. I had made the band, and I'm sitting on the cement wall all by myself because we hadn't gotten to that first meeting after audition. And here comes three lovely ladies, arm in arm, shuffling across and skipping across the courtyard saying, "Hey, we're the trumpet welcoming committee." I knew I had found my home. Bye, Mom. Bye. They are still my friends today. within that hour after auditions, I had created friends, and we were all here together. Some of the things I've learned. The football players who are backfield and catch the balls when they're kicked tend to have low sperm counts and low IQs. The guys who wore black stripes and white stripes, they beat their wives. I learned there is strength in numbers, both musically and when you go head to head with the opponent's football team. I learned about esprit de corps, a term I didn't know about, but I learned it well in this group. I also learned that classic music can really kick ass during a halftime show. I always felt badly for the football teams that had trouble staying hydrated during the second half of the games after their water table spontaneously fell down during halftime. I learned that buses could have names and that we were not allowed to speak about whatever happens on bus 4. I learned the beauty of an apple during the third quarter. I learned that rule number 4 is a real thing. I hope everybody remembers the experience and the feeling that it is to break an OSHA law as we would all cram into the little band room and rehearse the same music that you're hearing up here. I'm glad there were no cell phones. Many of us would not be in education. And going one step further, why did Ohio State write that stuff down in a book? I learned terms like ellipsoid and plasma and what they did to the turf. I learned about groups called I Love DC, LOB, and PPP. I learned the importance of what being 5 minutes late meant. I learned to fear the song in the Hall of the Mountain King. 8 a.m. rehearsals and putting on the first piece of clothing you could find and dragging yourself out so that you would not be late for that practice. I also learned that you feared the voice, but you loved the man. Few of my fond reminiscences. She said, talk about the Paris trip. How do you talk about 200 friends in Paris? It was on, and then all of a sudden it fell through, and we were crushed because we'd been so excited. And then it was on again, and for half the price. It couldn't be better. But setting off for Europe with 200 friends to go to a foreign land with our instruments is one of the high points you can ever, expect to have as a young adult. It gave us the opportunity to walk where kings and queens had walked. And we explored where our grandfathers had fought for the liberation of Europe. And we even visited those that didn't make it home. As a college student, that was priceless for us to be there. We entertained thousands of people in their own home city and with a sound that they had never experienced before. And all the while, we knew the reason why we were there. We were there because of our leader had created a group worthy of that trip. We were merely the clay, but he was the artist that shaped us into that band. And now we had the opportunity to show the world, and that's what the Paris trip was. Now, the band in general, and again, these are my words. True art has to be experienced, and that experience can be in so many ways. It has to be experienced by the producer and the consumers. It has to drive our imagination or rocket our emotions and excitement to new levels. The kind of excitement that makes an audience jump to its feet screaming, or the desire of a performer to march taller or even perform better at that very moment. The magic of our band, of Doc's band, did this for thousands of people through the years. When we showed up, audiences expected something of us. They anticipated something from us. And we delivered to them exactly what they wanted from us. And they gave us exactly what we needed from them at that moment. We in this room will never be a Beatle, a a Taylor Swift or a Kenny Chesney. But when we entered stadiums filled with high school students and parents, we were freaking rock stars. Audiences were thrilled, moved, they were pushed back into their seats, they were dazzled, they were entertained, and they loved it. Some of my greatest moments were not when I was marching, but when I was on staff, and we would be watching the show at one of these stadiums. And you had that emotion coming off the band on the front side of us, and the screaming behind us. I never had goosebumps like that before with some of these shows, where you just have this raw energy coming this way and feeding back. Any words I would try to do would not do that justice. And lastly, well, not lastly, I want to add something here. I want to say rest in peace, Joe McCreary, Andy Tellerovich, and most importantly, the man who made so much of this happening as far as our opportunities to travel, Mr. Ross Brightwell. Can I have a round of applause? Dan Evelyn was another one who left us way too soon. Now for Doc. So far this speech has not been outwardly about Doc, but in actuality it was all about Doc. All of us, hundreds of us, if not even 1,000 of us, have all had similar stories, experiences, memories, and friends that we can never replace. But every time audiences stood for us, they were standing for him. They were standing for his creation, his vision, his hard work, and all the work he did to push us to be better. We were just a vehicle, and we were just doing his bidding. And gosh darn it, we did it well, and we did it for you. I didn't know early on at the time, but you were the inspiration personally that brought me to IUP. Back then, and then when I started with the band, you were my professor and my band leader. Later on, I had the opportunity and we became colleagues and shared in some amazing band experiences. I will forever love Manhattan Mondays also. And on a personal level, you saw things in me that I didn't know were there. And you opened my mind up to worlds and understanding things that I never would have found on my own. Today I call you my friend, and that is the most precious of all. Happy birthday, Doc. We love you, and please enjoy the videos, everybody.
The IUP flag was waving high above the crowd. You heard the first sounds of that great band. And the IUP Marching Band was about to take Paris with their legendary musical excellence and performance style.